And we give you a bit of an update on the Muhammadu Buhari burial a little later in our show. But first, I want us to start off with Mali's military ruler, General Assimi Gota, who has now officially granted himself a 5-year presidential mandate renewable indefinitely and without the need for elections. Well, the move, we understand, is long anticipated and follows the passage of a bill by the country's military-appointed legislative body. The law, which was leaked to the public after being signed by Gota himself, allows him to remain in power until the year 2030, despite the earlier promises by this military junta that the government will return to a civilian rule by March 2024. This development marks the latest in a series of authoritarian measures by Mali's military leadership, which has steadily tightened its grip on power since seizing control. The country's cabinet, the Council of Ministers, had already approved the measure last month, and critics see the law as a further blow to democratic gains in the country, and will be, of course, doing some analysis on this in a bit. But I want us to start off from Nigeria itself, where, of course, the nation, as we speak now, is in receipt of the body of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, as he has now been returned to the country in terms of his remains 2 days after passing at the age of 82 in a London clinic. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was at the airport, Katsina State, to receive the remains of his predecessor. The body is expected to be transported to Daura, where Buhari's hometown is, and he'll be laid to rest as we speak. And to honor Buhari's legacy, the Nigerian government has also declared Tuesday a public holiday. Former Army General Buhari holds a unique place in Nigeria's history as one of the only 2 individuals to have led the country both as military head of state and also a democratically elected president. And so let's get more on what's been happening in the last few hours in his hometown now. Joining us now is Kute Eyotepe, a journalist with our sister station, Channels Television in Nigeria. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. And we see the pictures there, quite a touching moment for many who will rarely miss the former military and democratic leader altogether. But President Buhari, you must, of course, admit, was one that touched many lives in Nigeria, isn't it? You'd have to unmute so we can get the point you're sharing with us here, Tobe.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, yes.
Okay, good evening. I say it's been a sober reflection and sober moment for the Nigerian people following the death of former president, the immediate past president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, who died in London just 2 days ago. And according to Islamic rites, he was buried today, this evening, at his country home in Daura community in Katsina local government, Katsina State in Daura. So basically, you cannot but talk about this man, Buhari, who was a former head of state under the military regime and also a democratic elected president of Nigeria from 2015 to 2023. So it's really a sober time for Nigerian people. And as you can see in the video, the president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, was right present live at Daura, where he received the body of late President Muhammadu Buhari, where he was laid to rest in his country home in Daura.
Today's obviously a holiday in Nigeria. As many reflect on this day, specifically within the context of the legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari, what would that legacy be, and how is he being remembered across the country?
Okay, for somebody of that toil legacy and someone who has been a military president, who has also been a democratically elected president, it's mixed anyway. Okay, just yesterday I was on your station and somebody was also talking about his encounter with late President Muhammadu Buhari. He said when he visited his home in Kaduna State before he became president, his place of residence in Kaduna was just like a headmaster's house. That speaks volume about who Muhammadu Buhari was. Muhammadu Buhari was somebody who stood for one thing, and that is zero tolerance for corruption and his zero tolerance for impunity. You know, even as a military.
We seem to be having some challenges connecting with you, but if you could hear me, let's talk about the hometown of the former president, where he's been laid to rest now. What is likely to happen next after today's burial? We seem to be having a challenge there in terms of the network connections to my colleague Itobe, who's joining us from Nigeria and giving us the very latest on the burial ceremony of the former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. Earlier today, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was there to receive his remains from London. But as of now, we can't confirm that burial ceremony is almost wrapping up in Nigeria, paving way for a series of activities as the country is in a nationwide mourning. Ethiopia, we just lost you briefly there in terms of the network connection, but just tell us about the way forward now and what's likely to happen after the burial of the former president or head of state when he's laid to rest later tonight.
Okay, basically, like I said earlier, is this event is taking place in the former president's country home in Dara. And as you know, for the next 7 days, the federal government has ordered all government agencies to fly half-mast in respect, in honor of the late president. And today, which is Tuesday, is already a public holiday. And as you also know, we Nigerians, from now till the next 1 or 2 weeks, the families will keep receiving guests from far and near, within and outside the country, just to pay homage to late President Muhammadu Buhari, and to also condole with the family of the immediate and extended family of late President Muhammadu Buhari. He died at the age of 82, and so his legacies, like I said, will not be forgotten in the country. You know, especially his legacy of fighting anti-corruption war in the country.
I see. But any words from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself, who's there to receive the remains?
Yes, sure. He came. He was in Dara personally to receive the remains of President Muhammadu Buhari, and he's been speaking. You know, they were of the same political party. They've been friends. You know, so he spoke highly of him. Just when this incident happened yesterday, the president immediately, or 2 days ago rather, the president immediately directed the Vice President Kashim Shettima and the Chief of Staff Femi Gbajabiamila to go directly to the United Kingdom and accompany the dead body back to Nigeria. So he's been speaking highly of him, and you know, like we said, he's somebody we can't forget in the country for his contributions to the development of Nigeria and even Africa as a whole.
We're grateful for spending some time with us, Itobe, from our sister station channels, television in Nigeria. Grateful for your time here on the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
And moving on, we are back to the issues about democracy in the sub-region, because Mali's military ruler, General Assimi Gota, has now officially granted himself a 5-year presidential mandate renewable indefinitely and without need for elections. Well, this is the latest news which has been leaked to the public and is making the waves all across West Africa, with concerns that the other Sahelian countries that have recently moved into military rulership may obviously to the same path. So what will be the implications for West Africa's democratic stability? I want to bring in now Austin Agbe, who's advocacy officer at election monitoring group Wademos, joining us from Nigeria now. Thank you so much, sir, for spending time with us always to talk about matters relating to democracy across the SAP region. It's getting worse, isn't it, by the day, looking at the fact that all these military leaders are further entrenching themselves in power. What could be motivating Assimi Gota now to stay on for another 5 years?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. We can hear
very
you.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So it is important. It is important to state that there is really nothing to celebrate within any military extension in power. I mean, it's what we worry more about is civilian authority which need their constitution to perpetuate themselves in power. For military, the power is with them. They own the power. They really don't need any actor to determine the extension of their powers. And you see, what we are talking about in Mali now is some legislative actors constituted by the military junta to act as parliament to give some level of credibility to the executive. So in this case, the judiciary will have to be answerable to the military, the same way the parliament needed to be answerable to the military. So this is what makes it a bit different. When the military takes over power, the very first institution they attack is the parliament. The parliament is expected to be the home of the people because it is a people's representative that makes law for the good governance of the country. In this case, the people did not have the opportunity to elect the parliament. Rather, the head of state constituted a parliamentary organ so that they can have a balance of force. There is an executive headed by him. There is a judiciary, which of course answerable to him. And of course, there is a parliament completing the organs of government. The parliament also appointed by him. What is the real challenge is that the Malian leader is assumed the leader of the Sahelian state because he was the first to take over power. He was the first, arguably, he has remained in power longer than Burkina Faso, who is a captain, and of course, Niger, who is also a general, but general took over power just recently. So it's the oldest. So it's seen as charting the way for the other Sahelian states. So what you see in Mali will become the playbook for Burkina Faso and Niger. Burkina Faso may not change its title. He may never want to promote himself. He may remain captain, but is going to remain captain for as long as 10 years until something happens that removes him from office. With all due respect, the Malian leader doesn't really need this promulgation of 5 years or 10 years. It's sending a signal that I'm following parliamentary rule, that the parliament has enabled me to continue for 5 years up to 2030. In such a time, maybe 2050, 2070, 2030, 2500. I mean, that's sarcastic anyway, but it's going to remain in power as so long as it sees itself as the only solution. In any case, the Malian leader is popular in certain sectors, the same way the Burkina Faso leader, and of course, the Nigerian leader. Each of them are popular in certain sectors, but with all due respect to moral judgment, the Malian leader has failed his people because he said he was going to return to democracy far back in March of 2014. Today, we are more than a year over. Rather than return to democracy, he mobilized the two other states, Niger and Burkina Faso, to form Sahelian state, and today is beginning to elongate himself in power. But this is a signal for civilian authority.
Yeah, and looking at it through the context of the new formation, the community they're forming, which is the Alliance of Sahelian States, many would say there would not be any checks and balances in that community now, knowing that in the previous ECOWAS framework there would obviously be checks and balances as compared to the AES, which already has all of its leaders as military rulers.
Exactly. Even though I'd like to also try to bridge the gap, ECOWAS as it were also started from a military background, even though it has some civilian authority, as at that time it was established in 1975. But the Alliance for Sahelian States, all three leaders are military authority. What does that mean? That means that they're building a convergence using Russia as the backbone to continue to perpetuate themselves in power, using instruments of disinformation and misinformation to see themselves as the only authority that can save their individual countries. But as this country be saved, truly, recent statistics show that Burkina Faso still remains top in insecurity level, particularly with the attack of insurgency and all of that. Niger is still not free from the governance challenge on which the military government rose to power. Burkina Faso, with all due respect to its architecture, having overthrown another military regime, has it be able to solve the greatest problem of the country? These are some of the things that provoke conversation. That the military, their usefulness is not more than 6 months. Arguably, maybe 1 year. 1 year, over that 1 year, the military will continue to fail in every action taken. A good example is what we experience today in Guinea. Guinea is heading towards a referendum. And what is coming out, if there is no referendum and there's no election, maybe the first quarter of next year, Guinea may continue to descend further to anti-democratic nature in a way that abuses of human rights, which of course is dominant in the Sahel state, will then snowball, even though it's already happening in Guinea,
so there's a
will be more of a challenge.
Yeah.
But
so there's a snowballing effect, as you're saying. But where lies the influence of ECOWAS now? It's almost as though there's nothing being heard from the regional community bloc.
The regional bloc has already accepted the departure of the Sahel state. That by the 29th, which is a few days from now, the Sahel state would have officially exited. So what is happening in the Sahel state right now does not concern ECOWAS. ECOWAS, right now, this is a time of grace by the protocol arrangement. It's just a time of grace. ECOWAS can intervene. What ECOWAS can continue to do, which Wademos has continued to push ECOWAS to do, is to maintain the integration that makes ECOWAS region or the West African region so unique. It is to ensure movement of people and goods across the West Africa countries. Going beyond that is the argument about single currency, which as of this case, is not a viable conversation. But with all due respect to ECOWAS, whatever has happened now, you can't blame it on ECOWAS. Again, you have the audacity to also blame it on ECOWAS. Why do I use the word the audacity to blame it on ECOWAS? Is that there are happenings right now in Togo. ECOWAS statement does not support the peoples of Togo. There are happenings right now in Guinea-Bissau. ECOWAS has not stood with the peoples of that country. There are happenings right now in Côte d'Ivoire. Elections going to be in October. What was the reason for the military coup in Burkina Faso? An attempt for third term. Here we are now in Côte d'Ivoire. A fourth term is happening, and ECOWAS is incapacitated because of the ground norm that was changed in that country. President Ouattara has said that, President Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire has said that you now have a 2-term limit for the administration in the country, haven't changed the constitution, whereas the 2 years he has initially done becomes immaterial. So he has started afresh. So indirectly, he's supposed to be going for 2 terms on the new constitution, but actually he's going for a 4th term in office. What has happened in Togo? In Togo, the head of state technically removed himself as president and called himself to become like a quasi-parliament prime minister, which means he will remain prime minister for life, appointing a president. So in Togo, you are never going to see any election. The people of Togo will never have the right to determine who their leaders will be. It will be some subset of individuals, and the way the architecture is designed in Togo, the architecture will remain constant over a long period of time. So where is democracy and where is the place of ECOWAS? Let's not go to Sahel state. We have too many problems already within the state that remain in ECOWAS. Can we tighten up ECOWAS to remain stronger? Deal with the issue in Bissau, deal with the issue in Cote d'Ivoire, deal with the issues, of course, in Togo. Not letting out the issues in Ghana.
Yeah, don't you see that? Don't you see the Don't you see the challenge? Don't you see the challenge stemming from the fact that there's no peer review amongst all of these leaders? They remain within ECOWAS, and when it comes to the highest decision-making body, they would obviously have to be involved. No peer review is there.
You can't have a peer review where those who should review the peer review are the ones perpetuating the issues that the peer review will pop up. It's a challenge. For instance, you have the heads of authority of state who make the final decision. It is not the commission. The commission is supposed to be like an administrative implementing organ for the heads of state. And who are the heads of state? The heads of state of authority are the heads of state of the country members, member countries who meet. We just came out from the last heads of state meeting. Of course, Cote d'Ivoire did not participate, and of course, ECOWAS heads of state decided and that the commission should move immediately to Cote d'Ivoire with a fact-finding mission. Because the ECOWAS heads of state have given their mandate to the commission, they have to move in. But when they moved into Guinea-Bissau, what happened? There was a counterproductive action in which President Sisi expelled the mission. The mission by ECOWAS and, of course, the UN, the UN Office of West Africa, expelled them from the country because they were having conversation with other stakeholders, which the head of state did not see as productive. Now, peer review will only happen if there is a superior authority that is able to take action. For instance, supposing that the ECOWAS court does have the power to deal with issues in the sub-region, or the ECOWAS parliament can make laws for the good governance of the region, yes, the peer review may have effect. But in this case, the ECOWAS court judgment even against the head of state of the Gambia has not even been effected. Against the head of state of Nigeria, with the handsets, killings and all that. Now, your earlier report, you talked about we're mourning President Muhammad Buhari, where it was in his regime that young folks who were protesting police brutality were killed. And there was an ECOWAS judgment. To date, it has not been effected. It therefore means that the ECOWAS court does not have the power to conduct a peer review. Neither does the parliament have the same power. So the only power which actually owns the authority, in quote, the one is authority of heads of state. They are the owners of ECOWAS. And that is why, as part of reform that Wademos is proposing, is to move beyond the ECOWAS of state to the ECOWAS of the people, so that there is a people's authority. In a way that if the heads of state cannot implement certain threshold, then the peoples of the community can implement it.
And we wait for the implementation of that. Until then, grateful for your time. Austin Igwe with Wademos. Grateful for spending some time with us here on the show. And that's all we have for you. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. There you find a lot more stories. I'm Blessed Sugan. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.